Hello everyone and welcome back. Hope you're all having a wonderful day so far. So today, more payments are going to be rolling out for those receiving Social Security benefits. These are going to be on average for around $1,800. We're going to be going over who is going to be receiving these, as well as the remainder payment schedule for the month of March. Also, Mike Pence is now calling for common sense Social Security Medicare reform. We'll be going over what he may mean by that, plus a whole lot more. Now, before I get into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so from AP News, Pence seeks common sense Social Security Medicare reform. So as he mulls a 2024 presidential bid, former Vice President Mike Pence on Tuesday called for common sense and compassionate solutions to reform entitlement programs and the nation's debt burden, suggesting changes to Social Security and Medicare programs hurling towards insolvency, particularly for younger generations, without naming specific recommendations. He said, quote, "What we need now is leadership, because if we act in this moment with the support of this generation, we can introduce common sense reforms that will never touch anyone who is in retirement or anyone who will retire in the next 25 years. Pence told an audience of college students at Washington and Lee University in Lexington, Virginia. Quote, "It'll just take courage to do it, and that's where your generation will come in." Pence yet to announce a 2024 presidential bid, but saying Tuesday he was continuing to pray and reflect on one, has previously suggested tweaks for the programs, telling CNBC in February that cuts to Medicare and Social Security should be on the table for the long term. President Biden won't even discuss common sense reforms of Social Security and Medicare, and too many leaders in my political party take the same position, Pence said during remarks at Washington and Lee's quadrennial mock presidential nominating convention known as MockCon. It predicts the presidential nominee of the party out of power in the White House. If that frustrates you, good. It should, because it'll be your generation that's robbed of your dreams and opportunities, he said. So basically, we have Pence here telling students at this university that we're going to have some type of Social Security reform. He doesn't go over what his plan is, but I think we all know that kind of the Republican plan in general is to raise the full retirement age up to 70. So he's basically telling these students right to their face that, hey, we may need to be raising the full retirement age for your generation up to 70. You might just have to suck it up and retire a few years later if you want to receive the full benefit. Now, I have to say it is pretty gutsy on his part for him to basically be telling students to their face that their benefit is basically going to be cut by having to retire a few years later. But hey, at least he's saying it to their face, right? Now, of course, since the State of the Union, we've actually had a lot of Republicans backing off their positions of potential cuts to Social Security, whether that be like raising the full retirement age or anything like that. But Mike Pence recently was on CNBC, and he was actually saying, hey, perhaps we should be putting Social Security back on the table. Watch.
I'm glad to see the Republican majority saying we need to use this debt ceiling to start us back in the direction of fiscal discipline. But look, we all know where the real issue is in terms of long-term debt for the United States. And that is that, while I respect the Speaker's commitment to take Social Security and Medicare off the table for the debt ceiling negotiations, we've got to put them on the table in the long term. And right now, President Biden's policy is insolvency. I mean, we're looking at a debt crisis in this country over the next 25 years that is driven by entitlements.
So again, Mike Pence has not yet said whether or not he's actually going to run for president in 2024, that he's reflecting on it, he's praying on it, but I'm going to have to say that he's going to need a very, very good prayer at this point if he's going to be saying that, hey, we may be cutting Social Security in the near future, even if it is for younger generations. If he's coming out and making statements like that, if this guy is actually going to run at this point, I don't think he stands a very strong chance. And anyways, before making statements like this, I wouldn't think that he would stand too much of a chance whenever he's running against guys like Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis. Those two are going to be the obvious front runners. So regardless, I don't think Mike Pence really stood much of a chance anyways. But moving on to some other news for today. Today, there's going to be another payment for those on Social Security benefits rolling out. It's going to be around $1,800 on average. So according to The Sun, the final round of March direct payments worth up to $4,555 is going out to millions today, March 22nd. Now, $4,555 is the maximum payment. Not many people are actually receiving that amount, and you would have to wait to the age of 70 to actually receive that full amount, rather than 66 to 67, which would be the full retirement age. So Social Security recipients see monthly payments of $1,827 on average, and checks are sent out on the second, third, and fourth Wednesday of each month. So this is the fourth Wednesday of March. So these are the final payments going to people on Social Security retirement, although there's going to be one more payment for Social Security going out on the last day of the month. I'm going to be covering that in just a moment. So when a recipient gets their check depends on their birthday. For anyone with a birthday on the 21st through the 31st, the payment will be deposited on the fourth Wednesday of each month, which again, today is the fourth Wednesday of the month. So if your birthday falls on the 21st through the 31st of any month, your payment will be delivered today. Now we can pull up the payment schedule for March of 2023 this year through June, and we see here again, the 22nd is today. That's going to be the last payment rolled out for Social Security retirement benefits. But we can see another payment here on March 31st on the schedule. That payment is going to be going to people on SSI. Now, if you are on SSI, you would have actually received another payment earlier this month back on the 1st. The 1st is usually when you receive your payments. The reason you're going to be receiving another payment on March 31st, the last day of this month, is because if you notice on April 1st falls on a Saturday, and anytime the 1st of a month falls on a Saturday, a Sunday, or a holiday, you're actually going to be receiving your payment one day earlier on a Friday, as long as that day also isn't a holiday. So you're going to be receiving two payments in March, and then in April, you're not going to be receiving any payments. So make sure to budget that in. Whenever you receive your payment on March 31st, just realize that another payment is not going to be coming in April, so don't go out and spend that extra money thinking that it's some type of extra bonus payment or a stimulus payment or anything like that. Make sure to budget that in, because you're not going to be receiving another payment all the way until May. And then whenever June rolls around, you're actually going to be receiving two payments once again. So on June 1st, you're going to be receiving a payment of up to $914 for single individuals. And then on June 30th, it's going to be the same. Now, back to Social Security reform for just a moment. If you remember last week, Bill Cassidy was really hammering the Treasury Secretary and Janet Yellen in regards to Social Security, saying that President Biden was refusing to meet up with him, that President Biden did not care about reforming Social Security, that he was just going to let this thing go insolvent in 2032, that it would be better for Biden, politically speaking, not to touch it at all and just to perhaps let it go insolvent, because by the time it goes insolvent, Biden would not be in office anyways, even if he did get reelected in 2024. Now, of course, Cassidy is now walking back those statements. So according to Semaphore, Cassidy, who later walked back the specific accusation against Yellen, said at the time he was frustrated with President Biden's refusal to meet with his own working group to discuss their proposals. Left unsaid, the Louisiana Republican has in fact been sitting down to discuss the issue with Biden's staff. Senior White House officials have met a half dozen times with Cassidy and Senator Angus King or their aides in recent months, per a person familiar with the matter. The two lawmakers are leading a bipartisan group that is exploring ways to shore up Social Security's finances past 2034, when its main trust fund is set to run dry, triggering large benefit cuts. Semaphore reported last month that options floated in the group include raising the retirement age to about 70 and establishing a sovereign wealth fund seeded with at least $1.5 trillion that would finance Social Security benefits with the returns from investing in stocks. Now, if they did not receive an 8% return on those investments per year, then they would explore lifting the cap on payroll taxes and also lifting the amount that you would pay in from 12.4% up to perhaps 13.4 or 14.4% to raise more money for the Social Security Trust Fund. We've engaged in good faith discussions to understand Senator Cassidy's proposals, a White House spokesperson told Semaphore. The president welcomes proposals from members of Congress on how to extend Social Security solvency without cutting benefits and without increasing taxes on Americans earning less than $400,000 a year. President Biden has never made himself available to hear about the Cassidy King proposal to save Social Security from impending 24% benefit cuts. Cassidy said in a statement to Semaphore, Biden calls himself a deal maker. We can't make a deal without him. Cassidy told Semaphore on Thursday he's requested multiple meetings with Biden, including as recently as the week before. He says he's been spurned every time. We have an approach which we need the president to engage on, Cassidy said. So basically, Bill Cassidy is saying that he wants to meet with President Biden personally, not just his staffers, and Biden is kind of refusing these meetings, which again, I wonder if President Biden maybe just doesn't want to touch Social Security until after maybe the 2024 election, because if he does something that's very unpopular, like raising the full retirement age, perhaps that could put his re-election into question. But definitely interested in hearing your thoughts and comments below on all this. But that's all the news that we have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.